bay is really, you know, it's a great, unique spot that we all have the opportunity to enjoy, and there's so much to explore.
We love being close to it and being able to get down and walk on the beach, and we're happy that it's cleaner than it was.
I just think the Friends of Casco Bay is a great program to bring awareness to the environment of the bay, and the more people who get involved, the better.
We're going to talk today a little bit about calibrating the pH meter. This is a HANA pH meter that we use at Friends of Casco Bay, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that because we like to calibrate these meters before every time we use it, so that we know that when we go into the field, they're going to be accurate, they're going to give us an accurate measurement, and we can justify that the data that we collect with these are going to be credible. When you go to do the calibration and when you're going to go to use the pH meter, the only button on the face of this meter that you're going to want to use is the one on the left. You can ignore the one on the right-hand side. That actually changes the temperature thermistor from Fahrenheit to Celsius. So this has been calibrated, and we would put this in a kit and head off to the sampling site. So today we're going to show you some of the techniques on how to take a water quality test using the Friends of Casco Bay's water quality kit. The first thing is to establish your site. When you get to a site, a lot of them are from floats like this. You're going to set a thermometer to equilibrate with the air. Then you'll start recording your information on the data sheet, and then we'll start with the testing. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to start by filling out the data sheet, and on the sheet we have an area for your name and the site name, date, time, some of this ancillary information, the air temperature, which we'll get in a few minutes when the thermometer's done equilibrating with the air temperature, wind direction and wind speed. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is collecting the water sample. We advocate to have our volunteers collect all their samples by using one bucket. The best thing to do is to try and get one quick scoop of water. So the first thing we're going to want to do is do a temperature reading, and we use these pH meters for recording temperature and pH. Now this has been calibrated back at home, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to push the on-off button. We'll turn it on, and we'll set it in the bucket. One thing that we're going to do that makes it a little bit easier to set this and have it be a little bit more stable is we're going to use some clothespins to hold up this wire bail to the bucket. And if you put one on either side, that kind of keeps that steady. And we'll let that sit for about 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes.
So at this point, we're going to fill our dissolved oxygen bottles. It's important to do all 3 of these at the same time. You want to rinse first. You want to rinse from the side of the bucket that you've collected the seawater in. You just need a little bit of water. Put the cap back on. Shake it to rinse. And then discard out of the bucket. You will do this 3 times with each bottle. You need to make sure that the cap is on tightly before you collect your sample. The jar is completely submerged. You then remove the cap. Let all of the air bubbles escape the jar, as you can hear. And again, we're doing this to all 3 jars of sample water. The second one is an alkaline potassium iodide solution, conveniently marked number 2, and again, it's 8 drops. And we do this to all 3 jars. And shake. You can jump now to the salinity. Again, we're rinsing 3 times. Everything is rinsed 3 times. Drop this in, give it a little spin to kind of clean that off. And wherever this settles out, wherever this sits, will tell us something about, again, the specific gravity. Using the measurement of specific gravity and the temperature of the sample, we can calculate the salinity. It's important to take the temperature, the water temperature of the sample at this point, and not use the temperature, the water temperature we used earlier to get the water temperature of the actual sample. This needs to be the temperature of the water in this cylinder with the specific gravity, with a hydrometer. There will be a bit of a meniscus up alongside the hydrometer. You want to make sure you're looking straight across it and taking the measurement right at the water level.
The last 2 tests that we're going to do is called a Secchi reading and a water depth reading. And this is a real simple instrument. It's called a Secchi disc, a black and white disc. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to lower it down through the water until I just lose sight of the disc. And when I lose sight of it, I'll bring it back up a little bit, maybe drop it down a little bit, just to the point so that I know that, okay, this is the edge of where I can just barely see it. So we've done our tests, we've collected our dissolved oxygen, we've collected our bottles for dissolved oxygen, we've done our salinity test, we've done our pH and water temperature test. What I'm going to do now is this section on what's called a dissolved oxygen titration. We're going to add 8 drops of this to all 3 bottles, and it will change the color of this fluffy precipitate into more of a yellowish color to it. We'll add 8 drops to each. So we'll take each of these and give them a good vigorous shake. You want to really kind of work your wrists when you do this because you want to make sure that it's well mixed. And now we're going to measure out 20 mils. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to get our syringe or titrator ready. And the first thing that you notice here is there's an air bubble that usually forms on the top of this syringe. So if you take the syringe and give it a quick little jab or 2 or 3 to try and get rid of any kind of air bubbles that might be in there. And then you want to pull the syringe down as far as you dare to pull it down. Now I'm pulling it down way past the 0 mark on here, way past any of the markings, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. We're going to start by doing a little drop, and we'll give it a bit of a swirl. One of the common mistakes when you do this is to kind of swirl it around like this, and the syringe tends to be loose, and sometimes it can fly across the room. And some of these are glass, some of them are plastic. The glass ones tend to break, and then you're in trouble. And it sort of starts to form a bit of a purplish color to it. Getting close. Still has a little bit of a color to it. Poof. Looks like that one drop did it.
Once you start doing the water testing, you come back every year. It's a beautiful thing to do, and you do feel like you're giving back to the community something that you can't go back and fix later.
there are things that can be done with the bay and all the water bodies that flow into it, that changes can happen, because from the data that they have been collecting here over the decades, they've seen a lot of changes. So I think the more that everyone understands that it's not a static situation, things can improve, that and every little bit that people do is helpful.